Hi, I'm Sherilyn Fenn, and you're listening to Twin Peaks Unwrapped.
I got idea, man. You take me for a walk under the sycamore tree. The dark trees that blow, baby, in the dark trees that blow, and I'll be
And welcome to Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Brian Gazaska, and beside me is...
Ben Durant, got Joel Bocko, and we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff, all the stuff related to the new series. We're on the phone with Joel Bocko. Hey, Joel.
Hey, guys.
It's so good to talk to you. I know it seems
It's
like
been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe
Definitely before the return.
Wow. That's why we had to have you on. We've got 8 episodes that we could talk about, 8 parts.
Yep.
Joel, what do you think of the new series?
I mean, I'm loving it. It's pretty much what I was hoping for, which is new, inventive David Lynch material that goes in, like, wild new directions he hasn't gone before, but also really seems to draw on all of his previous work. Like, I think all of his films have been, you know, you can find references to pretty much all of them at this point. Some more so than others. I mean, the last one, the first, like 5 or 10 minutes, there was just so much Lost Highway in there, you know?
Yeah.
And then when we went with the Giant and Senorita Dido, there was like definitely sort of an Eraserhead and maybe even a little Elephant Man vibe. I believe this is his first black and white work within a feature. I mean, he's done commercials and music videos and stuff in black and white. I think it's his first sustained black and white like story filmmaking since The Elephant Man.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it's definitely his first period piece in a feature work since, or maybe even a short film, his first period piece since The Elephant Man.
So on your blog, lostinthemovies.com, every week you've been putting out a post about the parts.
Yeah, every night, within a few hours of the episode, I'd publish my response.
Wow, that's
Every
awesome.
Sunday night.
That's
Every
ambitious.
Sunday night, I should say.
We can't do that. We need a few days usually to digest it.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it's
mean...
a little harder, I think, with the podcasting because you got to have everything set up. I think the only ones I've heard who did that was the guys who do The Gifted and the Damned. I have no idea how they get that turnaround. That's insane.
Yeah, it really is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been enjoying listening. I think I've really lost track of most written things about the show, way behind on stuff I thought I'd be reading on websites. But I've been keeping up pretty well with the podcast just because that's kind of easier for me to do.
Sure.
It's been great hearing everybody's perspectives week to week, you know.
What's your favorite part so far?
Definitely part 8. I've already watched it 3 times. I'll probably watch it a 4th time tonight. And that's for the listeners who are listening to this on like Friday or whatever. That means like I'm recording this on Wednesday, so I've watched it every night since it was on.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Yeah, I mean, part 8, after it ended, I texted Ben, then John Thorne, and then I watched it again at midnight. Like I was just like, I can't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
I need to talk to someone, and then I'm like, I need to just see it again.
Right.
It's a piece of music almost, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Definitely.
which, I think there was more music in this part than any other.
Yes.
Both including New Angelo stuff. I mean, I think the music playing with the Giant in there, I think that was Badalamenti.
I think you're right.
And
Yeah.
I think the music playing when the woodsmen are smearing blood all over Cooper and I love both of those tracks. So if those are 2 new Badalamenti, that's great because I think people have been wondering, gee, like what happened? Why, you know, is this an aesthetic decision or did he just not make as much music this time or whatever? But this kind of shows, I mean, these are great. The stuff with the Giant reminded me, it was very, very different from Voice of Love, but it reminded me of Voice of Love. in its sort of feeling, you know.
Yeah, Woodsman scene I think is Beethoven's. Sometimes they call it Moonlight Sonnet, and it's slowed down. So I think that's where they got that. At least that's from Welcome to Twin Peaks.
So listen to that.
It's slowed down.
I think it's slowed down.
Yeah,
but
I'll have to listen to them side by side and
But if
kind
you
of
go to
see.
Welcome to Twin Peaks website, I think they have both versions.
Okay.
They have
Yeah.
from the TV show,
Yeah.
and then they have the actual Beethoven.
Lynch has been slowing down everything. I mean, we heard American Woman slow down
Yeah.
by Lynch, and that's
when
interesting.
First appearance of Evil Cooper
Yes.
there, Mr. Cooper. Yeah.
And you know what's also odd? Cooper's voice, when he's talking behind the glass, his voice is deep. And I just realized it really kind of was that deep sounding from the Woodsman. The Woodsman had that deep, snarly sound.
Yeah, the sound is beautiful.
It is. I remember Lynch saying before the series came out that you needed a good sound system, and
You do.
And I didn't mention on last week's show, but like this is like David Lynch's 2001: Space Odyssey. This part 8.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
You have all this explosion. You have 20 minutes of an atomic bomb and this whole sequence, and it's like I loved it, and it was something, but it's so trippy and so crazy, and like you never would have seen this on ABC. Like
No. You want to turn off all the lights. You want to get as close to this TV and just blast it and just immerse yourself in that world.
I think there's like 3 Kubrick connections in this one, because there's obviously all the stuff flying in the mushroom cloud is very reminiscent of the end of 2001. I think the piece of music he uses, the tribute to the Hiroshima victims that he plays over the mushroom cloud, I know the same composer, and I think the same song was used in The Shining. I think I read that somewhere. What's the other? Oh, well, I mean, the Mushroom Cloud, Dr. Strangelove right there, you know. He is a Kubrick fan, and that's one of the few directors. I don't really think of Lynch as being like a cinephile type of director like Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino, where it's like, oh, let me tell you about this movie, that movie, and this movie. Like, Lynch has like a few movies he kind of talks about, and he doesn't like to do too many, or he says he doesn't like to do too many overt references, but Kubrick is definitely one of the ones that he sort of openly talks about. And Kubrick loved his work. I probably most people might know the story, but when Dwayne Dunham was editing Empire Strikes Back, when he was like sort of on the set observing stuff, and maybe they might have had an editing booth at EMI, Kubrick was shooting The Shining. And one night he caught Lucas and Dwayne Dunham coming out of, work, say, oh, guys, come on over. We're going to watch a movie at my place or something. And he brought them over and he showed them Eraserhead. So this is my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that.
Stanley
That's
Kubrick.
Cool.
So
that is awesome.
He loved Eraserhead.
Joel, how do you feel about this whole Dougie Cooper storyline? Like, how are you doing on that?
I'm really fascinated with it, and I feel I'm definitely not on this train that people seem to be on of like, okay, let's get the real Cooper back, because to me, I think that defeats the purpose. I think feels like if the question of the first Twin Peaks was who killed Laura Palmer, the question of this one is what's going on with Cooper's identity and when will he sort of become integrated again. And I think just like they answered the Laura Palmer question and then it was like they had nowhere to go, or at least they kind of lost their way for a while, I think resolving this thing and giving us like a Cooper who's in command of his faculties and all right, damn fine coffee, let's go get, like, that to me will just completely defeat the purpose of the show. I don't even know if it's about him getting back to that state. Maybe about him finding that he can't be that person anymore, So I don't know where he's going to end up, and I don't think he'll be in Dougie mode for the next 10 episodes, but I think whatever mode he's in is not going to be the complete integrated Cooper, because I just think the story is about that process.
Yeah.
It's not about that outcome on it.
Even Kyle MacLachlan basically says, he as a person has changed, and he was saying that he felt Dale Cooper has changed in 25 years. I'm on the fence. I mean, part of me is kind of like, I'm ready to move on. I want old Cooper back. But at the same time, Kyle MacLachlan has given an amazing performance every time he's played that character. It's so interesting to see what he's done with it. So I've enjoyed it. At the same time, I miss the old Cooper.
I'm with Joel. I feel like we're not going to see the real Cooper, if anything, until maybe that last 2 parts.
I don't want to predict, but I'm hoping part 9. Part 9 he's back.
I feel like each week you're like, the next part.
Yeah. He's got to get it right eventually.
Right. What do you think about things that are not Twin Peaks?
Well, it's interesting that we got so much in the first 2 parts, and then it really, I wouldn't even say it consolidated, because some of that stuff we haven't even really returned to yet. But it's like right out of the gate they wanted to establish all these different threads, and then I assume at some point we'll be picking up on them again. But they really dropped a lot. But we haven't seen Hastings since part 2, so
True.
It's sort of like there's two different strands of storytelling that you can, you can start off with one little thing and then expand and expand and expand, or you can kind of start off with all these scattered things and then slowly bring them together.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems like in his more recent work, Lynch likes to take that approach. Like he certainly does that with Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire. He starts with these like scattered stories, and then he finds a way in the end to make them feel like they're more related.
I would
And
include
he
Lost
definitely
Highway
seems
too.
to have done that with The Return too.
Yeah.
A lot of these strands, I feel like we might not get anything. Like Shelley's daughter, I kind of feel like he's giving us a living world. And in a living world, all these things are happening, but they don't have to have an ending. Say Showtime after this was like, yes, we want you to make more. Well, guess what? We can go back to those characters that we didn't touch upon.
True.
But like, I don't feel like Shelley's daughter has really any relevance right now to anything. But it was cool to see what she was going through.
Other than she's on Sparkle, so she's connected to this world of the drugs that
True.
Red is bringing more drugs into Twin Peaks, that he wants to stay in Twin Peaks. So she's connected to this other.
She's
other
taking
storyline.
she's taking the drugs, but I feel like I wonder if that's any like importance to the overall story. Like I don't know. Are we, you know? I feel like we might not.
I do agree with you. I do agree that I think Lynch always liked the idea of like a continued story that is always there. And he never wanted to resolve things. So I think he does like the idea to throw things out there. You can hear a little bit about this character, a little about this, a little about that.
Yeah, I like that. I like it's a living, breathing world. It's like The Simpsons. You have all these characters, and you can have them show up on screen for a split second, and you go, "That's awesome,"
right?
And they move on. But they're living their lives. It just gives it that world feel.
That's an interesting thought. I just sort of instinctively felt like, okay, we're getting introduced to these characters, and we're going to see more, and that there'll be sort of a little arc for each of them. If you look at it, if you were to isolate it over the whole episode, now I could almost kind of see it. I could see sort of a case for both ways. I mean, that would be an interesting approach. Twin Peaks has already shown it's willing to be unconventional, so it could do that. I would say that's a pretty unconventional approach for a TV show to say, we're showing you this not because there's a story here, just because we want you to have this moment with them. That could be sort of a new approach they want to take to TV. Now, the other thing is there's a lot of precedent for sort of those, it's not really a dead end, it's kind of the opposite in a way. It's like an open ending. But those sort of almost non sequitur type scenes that he has in, again, Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire, where it's like you spend one scene with that character and you wonder, but you never see more. Now, the only issue with that, certainly in terms of Mulholland Drive, is that was supposed to be a TV pilot. So part of me thinks The Return is kind of, we're seeing what if Mulholland, I almost feel like it's more of a sequel to Mulholland Drive than Twin Peaks. Like we're seeing, like, what if Mulholland Drive had been a TV show? And you get that scene with the guy seeing the creature behind the diner, but then you see him again, or maybe he's dead. You see the psychiatrist or something the next week, and you get that scene with the prostitute outside the hot dog place and the hitman talking to her, and then you follow up with them like 2 weeks later, and you get another little small scene. And that's more where my mind is heading, both because of that and because I feel like Mark Frost, I think he would prefer to have story beats and character development, even if it's only. You got to think, if we visit with Becky every 3 episodes for a scene or two, we'll really only end up with 4 or 5 scenes. But those 4 or 5 scenes could tell a little story.
Jacoby told a story so far.
Exactly. That's the perfect example so far. Like we thought, gee, maybe we'll never find out. We just get to see him painting shells. Where I think Twin Peaks will follow sort of the general thrust of narrative. That's my guess. And again, I could be wrong. I've been wrong. I think we will see Becky again. I think we'll see Richard Horne again. And I think what we'll see out of their stories, I don't think we'll get like necessarily a final nail in the coffin, this maybe literally in some cases, if this is the end. I think we'll get enough though to feel like there was a little short story there. It's like if you open up a book of short stories and you get little story beats in it, and maybe it's just a snapshot of their life, but usually something happens to them between the beginning and the end of the story. And Lynch might want to do that too, but if nothing else, I think that would be Frost Touch. So
yeah, I agree. I feel like we're getting these scattered.
I don't think we've seen the last of Becky.
Yeah, I mean, I think
hope
you're
not,
right.
'cause she was kind of a fascinating character.
She is,
you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got the Jacoby sprinkled in there, and we got a beginning, a middle, and end for him. And I feel like Becky and all these other characters, we're gonna get a little beginning, a middle, and end. But they're just a living. It just shows this world's living with other characters that are intertwined.
Yeah.
And we don't need a huge story arc that's ridiculous. We just want a taste of their life. Yeah, in Twin Peaks.
I think we'll get a compromise between both, and not in the sense of diluting both, but in the sense that I think we'll be able to get both. We'll get, this is a slice of their life, but there's something more happening to them than just here's a peek at their life.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel it's
actually, let me qualify that a little bit. I think we may just get peeks with some of the older characters.
Like Nadine.
Or, yeah, I think we'll see more than we already have. But I think they're the closest thing we'll have to kind of fan services, like the missing pieces, basically. Those never would have worked within Firewalk with me, but they can almost work in an 18-hour film the way they couldn't in like a 5-hour film. 5 hours isn't long enough to have all these little tangents, but 18 hours kind of is. Right. I don't think they're going to introduce new characters and then not really do anything with them other than just show us who they are. That's my guess.
Yeah,
So I think Richard Horn will have a story, Becky will have a story, her husband, Steven. And I think those girls at the Roadhouse, I think we'll see them again, the ones who Richard tormented.
Oh, really?
Okay, here's a question. Amy Shield, they promoted as this is one of the new big stars of Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Literally, we've seen 8 hours, and she has been in the middle of a chorus line of girls who watched somebody get beat up with no lines for about 30 seconds.
At the casino.
The casino girls.
Sandy and Sandy. I'm fascinated to see what they could do with her, because I'm assuming she will play more of a part. Unless they just really liked her and were like, gee, this extra is going to be big. We're going to put her out there. But, maybe she has a really good agent. Seems like she's got to come back as something. I don't know.
I mean, I do wonder if we were misled because of Mark Frost's audiobook with her being TP. Because we got so much of her doing that piece, I think I assumed she was TP.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did too.
Funny to finally see her and say, like, that's her part?
Yeah, yeah.
And I keep saying,
Makes
she's
you
in the
feel
casino.
kind of bad for Mandy and Sandy, though. Only Candy gets promoted.
Yes.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Once this show is done and we get the release date of the Blu-ray, would you two be interested in a 18-hour uncut? And when I say uncut, I mean take out the Roadhouse songs, because usually those were the credits would roll. So you could take out that. I mean, you could keep them in, I guess. That's an option. But an 18-hour version of this just put together, and is that something we would want? You guys would want?
Are you saying, like, I would be on the DVD?
Well, it wouldn't fit on one Blu-ray, right?
No, it wouldn't. It would be like, turn it over. No, like an old laser disc.
Next.
Yeah. How cool would it be if it, or each
disc? Are you
disc?
asking me to stay up for 18 hours straight and watch Twin Peaks?
I don't know. I'm just saying, we don't need credits. Like, say the first disc had 4 hours all together, so you watched it and it was just 4 hours. And went to credit. It'd be kind of interesting.
It would be interesting.
I was wondering about that. Here's the funny thing. It's like Lynch never really seems to want to modify his work, which I actually really respect. I think there's so many director's cuts and things out there, and sometimes it's interesting. I feel like sometimes it kind of dilutes what was done, and I kind of respect the fact, even with a film he doesn't like Dune, he's like, well, the film is what it is. Like, I put my stamp on it, and it's done. So I've been wondering, like, would it even be too much for him to modify so, like, the credits don't run?
Yes.
Maybe even they keep the musical interludes, because they do that actually when you watch them. Parts 3.
Yeah,
and
1,
4?
1 and 2, 3 and 4.
Right, 1, 2.
Yes, exactly. I think 1 and 2 they actually even cut out the scene with the giant.
Yes,
right?
They do. Right.
That's not even in there. Part 2 they left in the musical performance, but there's no credits.
Yeah.
It just cuts to music, and then it like cuts to whatever begins part 4, and it's kind of like, oh, that's an odd little interlude.
So I feel like the music is part of it.
Hard because some of those music parts, like you obviously couldn't cut the one where like Riley Lynch is playing, you know.
Yeah.
And the Nine Inch Nails one just works perfectly as this like
Yes.
weird seance. My cousin called it like a seance for like releasing Bob or something.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like this weird ritual that I love that.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, I mean, I think I could see them not having credits and being able to go to the next.
Yeah, me too.
Next part, but I think he.
Yeah, that's the most I could see him doing is removing the credits and just seamlessly flowing it.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd love to watch it like that. Yeah.
It's so funny hearing like before the series came out, they're saying, "Oh, it's gonna be like one movie," and I kept on scratching my head saying, "What? How is it gonna be like one movie?" Like I could not comprehend that they were actually gonna do this because. In my head, you're like, no, you need to have an ending to, at the time I would say, an episode. You can't just do that. But it really does work. And
he's doing it.
He's doing it. And I know that the Roadhouse music is kind of helping us ease our way to the end of the part. But it really does work, and I do see it as one story.
That's why a part of me was like, do I want to wake up at 3 a.m. and watch it all the last day? You know, the last night.
I'll do that, I'm sure. I know I'm going to. The last day? No, I don't want to do that because I'll be too exhausted, I think, for the last episode.
I'm like, if I woke up at 3 a.m, I can watch it all right up to the point to the new one. You would be too much, but it would be so cool to do it.
Yeah. I'm too old for that.
Yeah, there's at some point I'm positive I'm going to seamlessly watch the 18 hours because I've watched long movies before. Like I went to see there's a 13-hour movie called Out One that I went to see, and they split it over 2 days, so it was like I guess 6.5 hours each day roughly.
Wow.
And they had little intermissions in between each part, you know, and then like a big intermission in the middle of the day for like an hour. So it was all broken up. It's funny because back then it was like this is like an intense thing to do. Like it's like, you know, you hardcore love movies, like you go and you sit in the. But now people do that casually for binging all the time. Like they'll watch like 8 episodes of television in a day and think nothing of it. Like it's not that obscure of a thing anymore. And this is like a weird cross between the two because it is a TV show, but it also kind of operates like a long movie. So it doesn't have those like rhythms and beats where I think one reason it's easier to do that for people with something like Breaking Bad is because you're getting a lot of like sort of mini stories as part of one big thing sometimes. But I guess it's serialized. It's more serialized than episodic. So
would you guys love a movie theater at the end to do something like that? Give us like 1 through
absolutely.
8.
Oh, that's what I was thinking actually. If they did it in the theater.
That'd be so cool.
They were talking about doing that. They were talking about doing the first, I don't know, maybe the first 2 parts in the theater, and I don't know if that didn't happen. I'm sure cons was more important than doing but I would love that. I would love it if they had a theater that maybe over a week period, you know.
I like a 2-dayer. I like a Friday night. Give us 1 through 8, and then 9 through 8. Oh no, 18. That'd be tough.
Much. Give me a week. Give me a whole week.
Yeah.
So Joel, have you started thinking about maybe when the series is over, doing a video essay on the new series?
Yeah, I've been wondering, like, sort of what shape it'll take. It's so hard to tell at this point because the series could just go anywhere. Like, nobody would have. I mean, I think there have been spoilers out. There was something to do with an atomic bomb, which I'm now thinking, like, how could people have known that? Because clearly that wasn't some practical explosion they made to look like a mushroom cloud. So, like, how did people know that was going to happen? I don't know.
I think Gordon Cole's picture in the back of his office.
Maybe. But, like, it was a pretty direct, like, I remember on Doug Poe, like, a year ago, I guess, there people, it was, like, sort of whispers of, like, oh, yeah, there's probably going to be an atomic explosion in the desert, like Twin Peaks, which is, like,
crazy.
A really random thing to know.
Yeah, that's
you know? So I don't know how people knew that, but even kind of having a hint of that, nobody could have predicted where last week's episode would go. So with 10 left, it's like, man, there's only one thing left. I won't say what it is because I know,
no
one or both of you has avoided it. But there was one big spoiler that came out that was in like TMZ and stuff that shot really openly for everybody to see. And I just keep wondering, well, I get nervous, first of all, as it gets delayed week after week. Like, oh, no, is this going to be like a climactic moment?
Yes.
But then I wonder, it's like they did it so openly, like with 100 people standing there with phones. It's like, even if they didn't want it to get out and they were like, put away your phones and stuff, which I think they said, they're still showing it to strangers. So a part of me even wondered, somebody suggested, what if it's just like a teaser that he shot, and it's not actually part of the show.
That'd be
It was
fun.
like sort of a viral promotion or something,
That would have been something.
just for fun. But so I won't say any more about that. But yeah,
I might know of it. I don't want.
Me too.
But don't say anything. But,
yeah.
But there is an open shot outside.
Oh,
that-
open
Yeah.
shot outside. Okay.
Yeah,
I heard
I
something
don't want to
else.
get into it.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I do regret.
we won't detail it.
Yeah, I regret that I saw it because I'm always thinking, is this the
Yeah.
end of the series type thing? Or
When that happens, it'll be kind of awesome because
Yeah.
it'll be like, okay, now from this point on, because I think that and the atomic explosion were the only things that we haven't seen yet. That I remember hearing about the dog leg, and you know, these little, and the kid getting hit by the car. I heard some there. Oh, I think there might be one other thing too, but that might have even been something that already happened.
Interesting.
Sort of ambiguous. I think there's like 2 or 3 things. So like it could go anywhere, and we really have no idea.
Yeah.
So to
it's
get back
exciting.
to your question, it's so hard to sort of think about where the videos will go, because the thing with the videos I made before was they were created with like an end point in design, because the whole point was like people talk about Twin Peaks in this fragmented way, and I wanted to give an impression of like one journey to a certain destination. The same thing with this. Like once I've kind of seen where it's all leading, I can kind of go back, pick it apart, and think about it in that light.
Yeah, exciting. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Joel, we are out of time, but we hope we can get you on the show again, maybe even before the series ends. It would be kind of neat to have you on again.
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
maybe one more time, and then have you on again
After
the series is over.
Yeah, maybe like when 2 or 3 episodes are left.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That would
we
be
kind
great.
of are like getting close to the end, but we're not there. You know, we've still
Right.
got a lengthy epic movie left.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like that. I
Yep.
like that a lot. That would be awesome. So, Joel, can you tell people where can they follow you? Tell them about your blog and anything else you want to share.
You can follow me on lostinthemovies.com, and I'm at LostInTheMovies on Twitter as well.
Cool.
And on YouTube, same thing. If you Google Journey Through Twin Peaks, that would probably be the best way to find my Twin Peaks videos.
And you would think everybody listening has seen your video essays, but if you haven't, they're the best.
Check them out.
The best video essays I've ever seen on Twin Peaks. I love your essays. They're so cool. You got to check them out.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joel. No community feedback this week. Next week, we'll get into it. But for this week, you can send us those comments, theories, and questions at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. Keep those comments and likes coming. And you can find us on Google Play, iTunes. Subscribe to us, please. 5-star review gets us out there in the wild. And give us those comments. And we'll be back next week.
I'll see you in the trees. I'll see you in the trees. Under the sycamore tree.